Welcome to Rock and Roll Fridays, a podcast on musical encounters and
Welcome
life.
to Rock and Roll Fridays, and
Got
I'm so glad to have a guest,
What's up?
Peter Brown of Loudo
Hey, how are
Guitars.
you?
Loudo Guitars. So
Yep.
I'm keeping with the theme of South Jersey, Philadelphia. Like I keep it close to the vest. So you are located
Yeah.
in Collingswood, correct?
Uh, we used to be in Collingswood, but about 2 months ago, we moved to Clementon.
Clementon, New
So we went
Jersey.
from like a little shoebox. Yes. So it's still in Camden County. But yeah, we moved from like a little shoebox of like a studio to, basically a converted garage to now we have like a 9,000 square foot warehouse. And it's
Awesome.
amazing, you know?
Yes. It's always good to have space and new space, right?
Oh yeah, well, space is everything when you're dealing with stuff like we're doing. So it's like trying to build production style instruments and stuff like that. It's just you need all the space you can get. And now
So
now's the trick is finding ways to utilize all the space.
it's it's not only a guitar creation moment, but life moment. How to utilize space.
Yes,
So
yes,
Loudo creates customized guitars. You started off repairing guitars, and you still do a little repair, but you're starting to
yes.
build more, right?
Yeah, so basically, I still do a lot of repair, mainly on the maintenance side of things. Less like I put my whole or I ran my guitar over. Can you fix it? I don't do that anymore. But I will still, do all like your like normal like setups and stuff that just keeps you running, keeps your guitar playing at shows and stuff like that. And then a little bit about Laudo is that a lot that's like one of the biggest misconceptions that we have is everybody thinks that we do custom guitars. It's not exactly custom. Now it's definitely more custom than what you would find like from like larger manufacturers and stuff.
Yeah,
But generally, it's the designs, the way that I design them and the way that we build them, and then we just sell them. We don't really do much of um, like you order it and then we build it. It's like we just build it, and if you like it, buy it.
right. Yeah.
So, but it is a lot different. We do have a lot of options that come standard on pretty much everything that you won't even find on most custom guitars.
And
So,
what is the difference? Like, talk to us about what is the difference of someone going into like a Sam Ash or Guitar Center and picking a guitar off a shelf compared to what you guys do? Is it
well, so immediately you'll notice a huge difference in playability. But then the other biggest difference with us is that we make actually you can probably see some of it back here. I'm actually sitting in the electronic design room right now. You can kind of see some of the spackling that's going on behind us. But our electronic designs are a lot different. Whereas like we offer a lot more options where it's like, your standard guitar will come with like three tonal options, like your standard like two pickup instrument. Ours generally come with five, but then we have an extra switch on it that bumps that up to 10. And it's mainly like how it's laid out. Like our electronics really play with like the headroom of your amplifier. Whereas so it's like you can go from like nice sweet cleans to like creamy distortion
yeah,
without even hitting pedals,
yeah.
just by like selecting stuff on the guitars. And I'm still looking for a good way to describe our electronics and like really 'cause, like I try to brand everything. And because like our electronics are passive as like most guitars are, so we don't add any um, extra batteries or anything to the instruments, but I'm a huge fan of Tesla. I've been like, I study a lot, and he's a person I studied a whole lot throughout, like my whole career and whatnot. And it just gave me a different outlook on the way to build electric guitar components. And I actually, in a lot of ways, I changed your voltage the way your voltage works inside of your instrument without adding batteries to it. And
Hmm.
what that does is that takes like your amplifier and it'll take like the headroom that you have for clean and it'll lower it, so all of a sudden it's gonna get dirtier easier, but you can still get those nice glassy tones if you want them. So it's
So
like
so
that's
it's all about the sound, right? At the end of the
yeah.
day, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, and we do a lot of stuff too. Like whereas like a lot of our bodies, like one of the things you'll really notice about our instruments is that they're very lightweight. Most of them are. I mean, we do still build some that are like standard weights, but in general, we hollow most of our instruments out, and that's for multiple reasons. Because it's like if you're sitting there at a gig and you're playing for 3 hours, it's nice to not have a super heavy guitar.
Yeah.
And I've also noticed through my years, I mean, I've been at this for 22 years and I've been building guitars the whole time. Um, I have noticed that, instruments that are lighter do generally sound better and contrary to popular belief, actually sustain better
Hmm.
than solid ones, but it's like, that's like the old myth is that, the heavier the guitar, the more the sustain. I've ran tests with that where I'm building instruments out of the same exact pieces of lumber, except I'm making one hollow and one solid.
Yeah.
And the hollow ones sustain longer every day of the week. So to me, it's not a myth, but it's tough to bend the ear of some guitar players. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Well,
that's why we still build solid ones because some people, just don't want to hear it and they don't have to. If they don't want to, just
well,
buy up.
there's certain things in life, right? And so I think selecting a guitar is one. It's about personal feel, um,
Hmm.
subjectivity,
Hmm.
look, right? I mean,
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, I'm sure you've been through lots of people purchasing, and it's really subjective experience, right? I mean,
Yeah, and because of that, you're saying about like looks and stuff like that. Like we actually cover like a wide range in the market, whereas like we build a lot of instruments that are like very like traditional, but then we also build stuff that's like a little more on the cutting edge side of things, like more like shredder based. Like here, let's get this guy in the shot. Everybody loves him. Here he is. That's Loudo. He's the real boss around here.
yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, yeah, a lot of it's like, so it's like if somebody likes a more traditional style instrument, we have that for them. If somebody likes a more like shredder, more cutting edge style instruments, we build those as well. So, and that's like the real trick about running a guitar company is that, and I say this all the time. So I mean, I used to be a professional musician. Like I was gigging probably like 3 times a weekend for quite a while there, and now, Leo, you gotta look at the camera, dude. I'll put it back then. Um, but I kind of gave that up about maybe like 10, 12 years ago. Because there's just not enough time in the day to focus on multiple passions.
yeah,
And I noticed I was really good at doing, the Luthiery gig, which Luthiery is, that's a person that builds instruments. So I was, I definitely have a gift for that. So I kind of just like stopped like playing as much and just focused on building, which is great because I feel like one of the things you have to do when you're like trying to like build an instrument company is you're not building guitars for you.
yeah.
You're building guitars for other people. So it's like, like if it was up to me, I'd paint every guitar pink. Like
Right, 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 right.
but it's not up to me. So we end up with blue ones and green ones, and like I would never play like a shredder style instrument, but we still build them. They're actually been our most popular instruments. Um, and then I prefer a more traditional style instrument, but it's like even there, it's like you have to look at it outside of your own desires and your
Yes.
own, and so like when it's like one thing I always keep in mind in design is that like it's very easy for me because I don't really have much of a preference. Like I've always played, all different kinds of instruments. So, I basically just like build stuff in the style of like specific, genres of music.
Yep.
And like currently I'm working on a pretty sweet guitar that's geared specifically for doom metal, which, so Yeah, and it's just like that's like something that just like doesn't exist on the market, and we're pretty close to actually press and play on that one, which will be nice.
Well, I was going to ask you, like, if you think about like the history of music, like the 50s kind of
Hmm.
country hillbilly big body guitars,
Hmm.
and then obviously BB King's guitar and
Hmm.
Eric Clapton's guitar, right? The styles of guitar over the year, then the 80s heavy metal hair band
Hmm.
guitar, right? The styles of guitar have changed and shifted with the times and with the
Oh
bands,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah,
um
big time.
and then the acoustic style guitars are unique in themselves. um
Yeah.
is there a style right now that's going on or that you're seeing like in the marketplace that people are gravitating to?
You're definitely seeing more like higher tech guitars, like whereas like they're like so you have guitars. It's like a lot of like one of my biggest mottos with Loudo is innovate, don't regurgitate. So it's like when you see like a Telecaster or something like that, right? We build a guitar that looks similar to it. It's called the GRT. All right. So if you just looked at it, you'd be like, oh, it's a Tele. But then when you get down to the specs of it, it's not even close. It's closer to a Les Paul than it is to a Telecaster when you look at the specs of it. And the reasoning behind that we do that is because like my honest feeling is if you want a Telecaster, I'll be the first person to tell you to go buy a Fender. They
Right.
they perfected it.
Yeah.
There's no reason to make a Telecaster. They've been making Telecasters since 1950. There's plenty on the used market, but nowadays you're seeing a lot more guitars that have like locking tremolos. I actually have the lock. This is the locking trem that we use here. It's a Floyd Rose, um, which is this was like developed, and this is like, in my opinion, this is probably the last like lasting major innovation on a guitar was the locking tremolo, because like a lot of people are like very like in the guitar building industry are very like steeped in the past where it's like, well, this is the way they did it in the 50s, so this is the way we're going to do that now.
Yep. Yep.
It's like I don't do that at all. Like that's just like I'm looking to offer something different, you know. So but yeah, back to that, like, as far as you were saying, like what kind of guitars like are like coming out now. I actually have one right here. This is a kind of what I was just talking about. This is our model. It's called the Kyber, and this one actually just got back. We just got it back from New York, and
It's
it was we brought it up there uh, for this guy. His name's John Taylor. He's actually the last person to hold the Guinness Book of World Records for fastest guitar player in the world, which is interesting.
that is interesting.
Yeah, he was up in New York recording a video with Troy Grady. Like it was like an extreme metal video, and so we made that guitar for him so he could use it during the video and keep it. But he traveled over with two instruments, and he didn't want to travel with a third. So we were like, dude, leave it behind. We'll pamper it one more time before we send it out. But this guitar is exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about like instruments that have like that are like focused on like a little bit of like innovation and stuff like that. So it's like
Yeah.
this right here. You can see this like bevel here. This is a fairly new thing. I mean, like they've been beveling guitars since the '60s, but like these contours, like when I lay these contours out, I lay it out so that your forearm lays perfectly in line with where your bridge is actually going to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and and it's just like you're seeing a lot more guitars like this where they're designed to be like just like super shredders, like where it's like it's like they are meant to go fast, and that's what they do. Not, I mean, they sound good, and you don't always have to play fast on them, but you're seeing a lot more instruments nowadays that are focused on like supreme playability, where you have like compound radius fretboards and stuff like that. Because in the 50s, everything was, all your fretboards on a guitar were actually made in a cylinder form. Okay, but when you look at the way that the strings actually lay on a guitar,
Yeah.
they lay out in a cone shape. So if the fretboard is a cylinder, that makes most people happy. Okay, but we lay out all of our fretboards in a cone just because physically, like when you actually break it down to the physics of a way a string moves and the way that you fret it up and down the neck, the cone shape actually allows you to get a lower action. It allows you to get it allows your bends to be smoother. And on some of our more traditional guitars, we use a very, very slight cone shape. But
Yeah.
then on our more shred style guitars, we use a more drastic style cone shape, that ends up flatter at the end because that pleases that type of player.
That's
You know?
awesome. It's like it's crazy to think about, like almost like the ergonomics of holding a guitar and how people strum
Oh
and
my
how the
god.
guitar has to
Yeah,
fit
that
the
keeps me.
fit the style of player too. I mean, it's
Yeah,
fascinating, and it's probably
that
not
keeps me
something
up at
like
night.
most people think about when they think about a guitar, that the level of thought and design that goes into it. Um,
Hmm.
how can people find Loudo, and how can people purchase guitars from you?
So Loudo, so you can find us on the web at loudoguitars.com. And you can also find us on all the social media outlets with Loudo Guitars. Pretty much everything. If you search Loudo Guitars, you're gonna find us. And then as far as purchasing instruments, currently uh, we're actually closed to purchasing instruments, but that's because we're building stock so that we can open up our showroom and just leave it open, because our biggest problem that we've been having is that we sell out of instruments faster than we can build them.
Yeah.
So, which is why we moved into a larger facility and bought new machinery so that we could produce them at a faster rate. And, quality is absolutely number one. Like, um, I will not cut down a process to make it
Yeah.
faster if
Yeah.
it doesn't make it better.
No, it's all,
Um,
yeah, and it
but
makes
yeah, but
it's a great problem to have, right? It's like
yeah,
we're
it
going to
is.
build quality products, and people should check out Laudo. And when we're ready to open the
Yeah.
showroom, that's
So
when
yeah, we're,
we're
we're actually we're actually shooting to open up the showroom in for Black Friday, and we're making really good headway on it now. So my
awesome.
goal is to have 40 to 50 instruments ready for sale by then. And we're plugging right along. I mean, like I think currently we're working on like 70 or 80 different instruments, and they're all moving along. But that's the interesting thing about this, is that when you go to scale up,
Yeah.
it's like, scaling up doesn't mean just where you can't just work on one. You have to work on them in batches, because that's where you find your economy. It's like the economy of scale
Yeah.
it's big time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so that's where we're at with that. And and I gotta say, it's all working. It's great. But so the plan is to open up the showroom come the Christmas season, and then we're hoping just to leave it. I mean, hey, I hope we sell out the first day, but I also kind of have my fingers crossed that we don't, because it really stinks to have people call up and be like, "Hey, I want to try your guitars," and you're like, "We're sold out."
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
it's
So
definitely a good problem to
it's a
have, but
good problem to have, and it's all about the quality, right?
yeah,
That's the key to Laudo. And
yeah. Well,
you
I
know,
can tell you one thing. We've had I have I've only seen one person actually put our instruments that were available for sale in their hands and not buy it. And I felt bad for him because he went home to clear it with the wife, and he came back 2 hours later and it was gone.
that
So, you know, so but
is
yeah, but
great.
that pretty much is how it's been. I mean, like we've been pretty much just like building them, and then like we release pictures of them, and then people show up and have been purchasing them. And I mean, it's like we haven't sat on anything longer than maybe like 8, 9 hours, which is
Well,
crazy.
that means you have a great product, and I
Yeah,
will definitely get the links out for Laudo Guitar.
yeah.
And Peter, it's been a pleasure, and so happy that you could be on Rock and Roll Fridays.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So everyone check out Loudo Guitars.